It was a scream that tore through the night, sharp and desperate, like a warning siren swallowed by the howling storm. I was sprawled on my couch in my modest Atlanta apartment, spooning soggy oatmeal, when my phone lit up with a single buzz. Then another. Then a cascade of notifications that made my stomach lurch. My neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, a frail woman in her late 70s, was knee-deep in murky floodwater outside her duplex, flailing her arms like she was directing a crashing plane. Her voice cracked as she shouted for help, the water surging over her doorstep. I bolted outside, the rain pelting my face, and froze at the sight, a river roaring down Peachtree Lane, not draining, not fading, but pooling right in front of my place, rising fast. My heart sank. I sprinted to the curb, pried open the storm grate I'd installed myself a decade ago, and stared in disbelief. Instead of the familiar gurgle of water, I met cold, unyielding concrete, smooth, gray, and deliberate. Someone had sealed the drain shut. I yelled into the gale, as if it could undo the madness. Then it hit me like a lightning bolt. This drain didn't just serve my property. It channeled runoff for the entire block. If it was blocked, we weren't just wet, we were doomed. 3 days earlier, Vanessa had marched onto my lawn, clipboard in hand, her designer sunglasses perched defiantly despite the gloomy October sky of 2024. Her smirk carried the weight of someone who thought every word she spoke was law. She was the self-crowned queen of the Peachtree Lane Homeowners Association, though no one could recall electing her. She'd pointed to my storm drain, declaring it an eyesore that clashed with the neighborhood's charm. I'd explained, with the patience of a saint, that the grate wasn't just some ugly metal slob, it was a critical piece of the stormwater system. I'd taken it upon myself to maintain it when the city slashed funding years back, keeping the whole street dry. Vanessa, with the smugness of someone who'd just discovered curb appeal on Instagram, scoffed, "I'm fixing it. It's hideous. I know a guy." I chuckled, thinking she meant a paint job or a decorative cover. I was dead wrong. Her guy was her cousin, Derek, a wannabe contractor who'd bailed on a construction gig after a week, but bragged like he'd built the Golden Gate Bridge. I learned this later, but that night, standing in ankle-deep muck as my neighbors shouted over the storm's roar, all I could do was gape at the cemented drain like it had personally betrayed me. The water wasn't going anywhere. Mrs. Ellis's basement was flooding, the Thompsons' driveway looked like a moat, and my garage reeked of swamp. I charged through the deluge to Vanessa's pristine townhouse, pounding on her door like it owed me rent. She cracked it open, draped in a velvet robe, sipping chamomile tea, unruffled as the chaos raged outside. I jabbed a finger toward the street. "You cemented the drain. You broke the whole system." She blinked, took a leisurely sip, and said, "Oh, that? It was so tacky. I did us all a favor." "You're welcome." Rage and disbelief churned in my chest. I told her she'd committed a crime vandalism of public infrastructure. This wasn't just a puddle, it was a disaster. She rolled her eyes. "You're all so dramatic. It's just rain. It'll dry." But it didn't dry. It worsened. The water climbed like it held a personal vendetta. Neighbors hauled soggy boxes from garages. Car alarms wailed as tires drowned, and the street turned into a lake. As a civil engineer, I knew the city's drainage map by heart. That grate was a linchpin designed in the 80s to divert runoff from our sloped streets into the main system. Without it, the water looped back, pooling at the lowest points. Me house, Mrs. Ellis's, the Thompsons. I couldn't unclog it. The concrete was rock solid. I called the city, and their response crushed me. No emergency crew for 48 hours unless it was a health hazard. What about an elderly woman on oxygen trapped in a flooding house? I snapped. Silence. Then, we'll escalate it. Neighbors gathered, some with buckets, others with trash bags taped to their shoes, their faces a mix of fury and fear. When they learned Vanessa had poured concrete into the drain, the mood turned from frantic to feral. Jake, a burly guy from down the street, bellowed, "She's paying for my ruined hardwood." Another neighbor, Lila, screamed, "My new sofa's underwater." Someone half-joked about tying Vanessa to a raft and sending her down the flooded street. I tried to calm them, But the water wasn't the only thing rising. Vanessa had vanished back inside. Her blinds snapped shut, though I caught her silhouette peeking out. It only fueled the anger. When the mayor's office got wind of it, I sent them drone footage showing the water diverting from the block drain, flooding the opposite side of the street. The city attorney called me, his voice grim, asking for every scrap of evidence. Vanessa's emails calling the drain ghastly, HOA meeting notes where she ranted about aesthetics, screenshots of her gloating on the neighborhood's social media about upgrading the curb. It was clear she wasn't just clueless, she was calculated. She thought she was sculpting a suburban masterpiece by burying infrastructure like it was a weed. Now, her vision was drowning us all. I knelt by the curb, flashlight in hand, the concrete gleaming like a sealed vault. It wasn't just a drain anymore. It was a symbol of her arrogance, a monument to her entitlement. Then, headlights pierced the rain. A city truck rolled up, and two workers stepped out, one with a clipboard, the other with a power drill. I grinned. "You the one who reported sabotage?" one asked. "You're standing in it." He surveyed the street, whistled, and said, "Someone's about to have a real bad week." I pointed at Vanessa's house. "You mean Vanessa?" He smirked. "Say no more." By dawn, the water had receded slightly, but the damage was catastrophic. Lawns were shredded, curbs lined with waterlogged belongings, the air thick with the stench of mildew. Everyone's eyes drifted to Vanessa's house, her yard pristine, her flowers untouched, her smug HOA sign proudly perfect, now a cruel joke. She stayed hidden, blinds drawn, as city workers set up cones around the drain. I approached one, Mike, who showed me a map marking a third of our block as dependent on that grate. "She blocked it, and the runoff reversed," he said. "We're excavating. 2 days minimum." I glanced at Vanessa's house. "You're billing her, right?" He grinned. "City's legal team's on it." Word spread that Vanessa faced investigation by the city's infrastructure compliance division, a bureaucratic nightmare with teeth. Neighbors thanked me for sounding the alarm, though their gratitude was laced with rage. Jake, whose garage was a swamp, waved a photo of his rusted tools. "I hope she's got deep pockets, 'cause I'm suing. If I can't sue her, I'll sue the HOA for letting her play dictator." That phrase stuck, dictator with a trowel. It captured the lunacy of Vanessa wielding unearned power, smashing vital systems with cement and audacity. A local reporter showed up by noon, tipped off by an irate resident. A woman with a microphone stood by the drain as workers jackhammer Vanessa's handiwork, the camera panning across ruined yards and sandbag doorways. She spotted me. "You found the blockage?" I nodded, reluctant. When I mentioned I was a civil engineer, her eyes gleamed. "So you knew what that drain did?" I explained it was a keystone diverter, the street's lifeline. "Who blocked it?" she pressed. I paused, then said, "Let's just say her name rhymes with menace." That night, the news segment went viral, and Vanessa's name trended online with memes like Vanessa's concrete heart and HOA flood queen. Then Jake found the smoking gun, a video Vanessa had posted days before the storm, showing Derek pouring concrete into the drain as she chirped, "No one needs this rusty junk. I want elegance." It was meant as a DIY flex, but now it was evidence. The city attorney's office called, citing reckless endangerment and infrastructure tampering. I submitted an affidavit, not out of spite, but because lives were at stake. Mrs. Ellis's oxygen nearly failed. A kid sliced her leg on a submerged sprinkler. This wasn't about aesthetics. It was about safety. The next morning, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The community center was packed, the air electric with outrage. The president, Mr. Harper, tried to downplay it as a misstep, but someone shouted, "She sabotaged our homes." The room erupted. Vanessa sat near the front, arms crossed, chin high, but her usual allies were sparse. She stood, claiming she only wanted to elevate the neighborhood, insisting the drain was hazardous. The crowd jeered. "You brag about it online," someone yelled. Mr. Harper raised a city notice, listing Vanessa's violations and the flooding's toll. In a unanimous vote, she was stripped of all HOA roles. Her reign was over. Days later, Lawsuits rained down. Jake sued for his garage, Lila for mold, Mrs. Ellis for distress. A class action formed, fueled by Vanessa's own posts. The city's report confirmed she'd used unlicensed materials and an unqualified cousin, fining her $80,000. At a press conference, the mayor announced criminal charges were pending. Vanessa's perfect lawn began to wilt, her porch light flickering aimlessly. Then, a neighbor found a folder in her flooded shed. Vanessa's beautification plan, Phase 2, targeting more drains, including one by a veteran's ramp. The HOA filed a restraining order, barring her from touching shared property. Vanessa's house went up for sale, a lone sign on her lawn. She moved out quietly, her truck leaving a fallen planter in the yard. The new owners, a young couple, brought warmth and humility, joking, "We're here for friends, not sidewalks." The drain, now a local legend, got a painted superhero face and the nickname The Guardian. At a block party, we celebrated with a cement block cake and a plaque from the mayor for community vigilance. A letter from Vanessa slipped under my door one night, her cursive admitting unintended consequences but dodging blame. I tucked it away, unmoved. The neighborhood had changed stronger, closer, vigilant. Vanessa's concrete had sealed her fate, not ours. What do you think? Should Vanessa have faced jail time? Or were the fines and lawsuits enough? Could the neighborhood have stopped her sooner? And how far would you go to protect your home from someone like her? Share your thoughts, like, and subscribe for more wild stories.